Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Taylor, and you are listening to episode 20 of the Trauma Dump Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump Podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others? This week, we will be discussing the topic of male body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is a mental illness characterized by obsessive focus on a perceived flaw in your appearance. Both men and women can have body dysmorphia, but this episode we will only be talking about the male perspective on body dysmorphia. Now I know what you're thinking. Grace, you're not a man. I know that, and that is why we have a man on the podcast to be talking about his experience with body dysmorphia when it comes to fitness. If you'd like to share on the show, please message us in the podcast Discord along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. So, body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, is occasionally still called dysmorphophobia. Dysmorphophobia. It's a weird word. I am dyslexic, so I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but dysmorphophobia is a mental disorder characterized by the obsessive idea that some aspect of one's body is not perfect or is severely flawed, and therefore they want to take exceptional measures to hide or to fix it. Just a quick disclaimer before we start. I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of these topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are suffering from body dysmorphia, we have so many resources in the description along with our Discord server where you can get free, anonymous peer support through our Discord. You can talk about literally anything. Even if it's not just trauma, even if you just need someone to talk to, there's always someone available over on our Discord, so please come check us out over on there. The topics discussed are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is always advised. According to Scott Granite, LCSW, in association with the ADAA, which is the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, states, the word dysmorphia comes from the Greek meaning ugliness or misshapen. One of the first known references to body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, dates back to the late 1800s when a French psychiatrist called it les obsessions du honte du corps, which means the obsession with the shame of the body. Pierre Janet's description of the condition is an unhealthy preoccupation with not just the look, shape, or feel of one's body or a specific part, but the shame one experiences in the appearance of their body or a certain aspect of it that really hits the mark. Hello, welcome to our show. It's great to have you here. So before we start this interview, I just want to address your pronouns, how you wish to be referred to by our guests and our viewers and everybody who's watching. What do they need to know about you? Introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is Vicente, so he, him. And Not much. I mean, I'm a very big extrovert, so I like talking to people. I like meeting new people, and kind of just helping them out. For people feel real comfortable coming up to me and talking to me. I don't know if it's just like a presence I give off or something, but it makes me feel good too because I've been in a point in my life where I felt like I had no one. And so I would have really appreciated someone coming up or finding someone that I felt comfortable to be able to go talk to, you know? So it feels good when I have someone come up to me, asking me for help when I'm probably in the same boat as them, you know, still trying to figure out how to get it all together.
Yeah. So before we start this interview, I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with talking about your experiences.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. And to make sure that I'm not crossing any of your boundaries, and respecting your experiences, please feel free to interrupt me at any time if you feel uncomfortable or triggered or you don't want to answer a question. We can also take a break at any time.
So if you don't feel like answering a question, just tell me to skip it. I promise I won't get offended because my priority is to make sure you feel safe at all times.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate it.
Of course. So the general topic that we're discussing on this episode is body dysmorphic disorder, which body dysmorphic disorder is a sense of dissatisfaction with one's body and the perception that their body is flawed or defective. Have you ever experienced having body dysmorphic disorder?
Oh, 100%. Probably throughout, it comes and goes in waves throughout my life.
Yeah, I feel too. I think I didn't have it as like a child. I thought I was the shit. But as soon as like my own mother started critiquing my body or comparing her body to mine, putting me on these fad diets that she was on, I started to get very self-conscious. And I developed a pretty bad eating disorder from the ages of 14 to 17. I was a strict vegetarian. I was very skinny. I'm like probably 200 something pounds now, but back then I was like 140. So I was like itty bitty.
Yeah.
It was not great. But yeah. So body dysmorphic disorder is present in at least 25% of people with anorexia nervosa, which anorexia nervosa is perceiving yourself as bigger than you actually are and starting to restrict your eating, increase exercise. It's the general idea that I'm way too big. I need to do everything in my power to become smaller. And so these body image distortions are almost always present in these cases. BDD affects between 5 and 10 million Americans, according to the International OCD Foundation. That makes it about as common as obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. BDD shares many features with OCD, like the experience of uncontrollable obsessive thoughts. And have you ever had those uncontrollable obsessive thoughts about your body?
Oh, for sure. Even from like a young age when I was in school, right? I'm a pretty short guy. Like for a guy, I'm pretty short. So right now I'm 5'3", and so when I was younger, I was even shorter than that. And the kids I grew up with, like all the guys are taller than me. So there's that constant thought of like, oh, like is it gonna be harder for me to make friends because I'm shorter? Is it gonna be harder for me to talk to girls because I'm shorter? Just different things like that. And then I think also, it kind of went away for a little bit, kind of got over it. Like the shortness thing doesn't bother me no more. Don't care. Short king right here. So, so that went away, right? And then I think I didn't really notice like body features, right, until honestly I joined the military, right? And then I'm joining. When you join the military, you're kind of, I like to call it a melting pot. You're with a bunch of people from just different backgrounds of life, grew up differently, things like that. And so I started noticing like, man, I look like a stick, like because I was small, I'm small, right? Or I have a really high metabolism growing up. So I think I joined the army at like 109 pounds. They said that if I had lost any more weight, I wouldn't been able to join. Um, and I think it was like from the beginning of like basic training, and then throughout my career, started noticing like, all right, well, I don't want to be this small anymore, right? So then I started the whole like journey of like trying to get bigger, trying to get stronger, and then with that, obviously as I got older, I was 18 when I joined, and as I got older, metabolism started slowing down. So then it started becoming easier for me to get bigger. But then it got to a point where I was like, all right, well, I'm bigger, but I don't like the big that I see, right? Like I'm seeing all these other dudes, and I'm seeing like uh, social media putting out like guys should be like big but like cut and chiseled, right? So I was definitely throwing those thoughts in there of like, all right, well, how am I comparing to everyone else, right? It's like a big comparison game in my head. Am I like, is this gonna affect like it got so bad, like I was like, is it gonna affect my career? Like do I not look like I should be wearing the uniform? So am I gonna get kicked out? Um uh just different things like that. So it definitely had me spiraling for a while.
Yeah, and that spiral, I mean, it's completely valid. I when I was in college, I'm no longer in college. I'm 23 now, but like I say 2, 3 years ago when I was in college, I was dating a guy who wanted to become a bodybuilder. He was a great guy. We did not mesh well together because we had very opposing personalities, I would say. But he wanted to become a bodybuilder, and he was a kinesthesiology major, and he was very into it. And he started taking RT and other, steroids and stuff like that. And so I started getting, concerned. I was like, why are you taking these drugs to, gain more muscle mass? Because it was also making him break out a lot, number one, like
Right.
all over his body. And I could tell that some of his hair was falling out. So he was starting to like lose hair up here. And so he looked sicker than
Or
like normal, I guess, when we first started dating. And so I was concerned. I was like, why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, I guess I have bigorexia. I was like, what is that? And I never heard anything like that. He's like, well, I just want to be bigger. I don't think I'm big enough. I need to keep getting bigger and bigger. I need to get bigger muscles. I'm like, okay, why do you need to get bigger muscles? He's like, well, if our relationship doesn't work out, then, I need to be big enough for the other ladies. I'm like,
oh no.
I was like, what? And what's really funny is one of my brothers, both of them are at Tech now, but one of my brothers was a freshman. I think I was a junior at the time. And my brother hated this guy. And he was like, dude, all this guy cares about is how he looks to other people. And so I started to do some research over this topic because, I have a small connection to it. And bigorexia is rising. There are record cases of bigorexia, which, if we think of, it's not an official term yet, but I feel like it's going to be in the next 5 years, because anorexia is wanting to be smaller, perceiving that you are too big. Bigorexia is perceiving that you are too small and wanting to be bigger.
Yeah.
They call it reverse anorexia, and it's on the rise. The Body Dysmorphic Disorder Foundation have claimed 1 in 10 men in the UK are sufferers of bigorexia. The Journal of Athletic Training reports that societal pressures often dictate the way an ideal body should look. For several decades, much of the focus on body image distortions were centered on women. But now in American society, the feminine ideal is to be yourself. However, men are now more encouraged to be muscular and ripped, especially because of social media. And you said earlier that, you're in the military, which, thank you for your service. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And you see all these guys around you, and you're like, I'm worried about people are going to perceive that, I'm not big enough to wear the uniform, or I don't look a certain way to be in the military. Tell me more about that.
Oh, so like growing up as a kid, right? Watching movies. You look at Captain America, right? He's like the poster boy for the army. And then even then, you look at movies based on actual like historical events, and still the actors that are playing these soldiers are ripped dudes. Like they're huge, or they look good, in the uniform. Make the uniform look really good. Uniform doesn't look loose on them, and if it looks tight on them, it's tight in like the right spots, according to people. So that's definitely like a big factor. And honestly, the military does it themselves. You look at the posters that they push out, right? Trying to recruit people in. You look at the commercials that they're pushing out, and it's either paid actors or it's the best of the best that they have here. Like they look for the perfect person that looks perfect in that uniform, that will attract that that young eye of like, oh, nice. If I join, like I could look like that guy. If I join, I can look that good in the uniform. People are gonna be looking at me like that. So it's a combination of like social media, movies, and then unfortunately like the military itself with the propaganda that it's pushing out of what their all like quote unquote all their soldiers look like.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like how you point out that, the military is putting out its own propaganda of if you join the military, you're going to be ripped like us. We're the best of the best, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, thinking about it, you want these men to be in peak physical form, but what is peak physical form actually? Because everybody's body is different
Right.
and everybody's capabilities are different. And so, yeah, it's a really huge stereotype that, I mean, instantly when I think of like, oh, military, you think of like a guy who's jacked and he's like really strict and stern and is a hard worker. But in my mind, I never think of like a height. And I guess from my own perception, when I think of jacked, I don't think bodybuilder like rippling muscles. Um, and I have a different perspective, right? I'm a woman, a different perspective. What would be attractive to me for a guy, like towards a man's physique, I don't think would be the same level of what a guy would perceive himself as, attractive. And I think everybody deals with some body dysmorphia from time to time, especially in high school when we're going through all these body changes and everything is like obviously shifting, right? But I think when it becomes a real problem with body dysmorphic disorder is when you start to obsess over these things. And I think I saw one of your TikToks, one of your shirts said something about body dysmorphia, that you were fueled by
Oh.
like I think it was caffeine or something, and
Is
then the bottom was body
fueled by
dysmorphia.
was it metal, caffeine, and body dysmorphia.
Yeah. And that shirt makes it out to be, kind of like, haha, I'm laughing at myself, right? But I really want to dig into that of why did you buy that shirt?
Okay, so um, the brand that it's from, right? It's a dude that lifts, right? Really good brand, honestly, great community, which is part of the reason why I bought the shirt. I'm actually an ambassador for that company. The story behind it, or behind the beginning of the company, is great. The Andrew, the creator of it, he was I believe an oil rig worker, and then when COVID hit, lost his job, and he took that as a sign to like follow his dreams. He always dreamed of being more in the fitness industry and changing it. So that shirt, yeah, it is definitely like a ha ha type shirt. And it was created with the input of the whole community, which is like what I really really like about it. So this community has its own Facebook page. It's all about uplifting people, helping them out on their fitness journey, helping them out on their life journey. In general, it's not, it's crazy. I call it a community, but personally, in my opinion, it's a family. Like I definitely would say a lot of my strides in helping with my mental health and dealing with body dysmorphia and dealing with how people genuinely feel when they go first start their like fitness journey. I owe it a lot to that community. It definitely is. It's an amazing community. Um, and then for me, it's also a very good conversation piece, right? Because majority of the time, these people that I've interacted with, right, it's easier for them to open up when it's taken at not taken as a joke, but the opening to start
lighthearted.
is more lighthearted. Yeah. With that shirt, I've had about two or three people come up to me, ask me about this shirt, and they're like, "Man, that's crazy! Like I love metal, I love caffeine, and I definitely resonate with the body dysmorphia." And I was like, "Well, hey man, like let's sit down, let's talk about it. Like what's up? Like why?" I was like, "Cause like this is just a shirt. I was like, it's a shirt. Putting it out there. Like I know I'm not the only one that deals with it. I know everyone does, right? So, but I also know that I've made strides to move past it. So if you haven't, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what we can do to kind of help you get on the right track. Because the gym, fitness, all that, like it is definitely a great outlet for mental health, and it definitely is good for you. but it also can 100% become a negative in your life if you're not smart about how you go about it, and if you don't ask for help when you need it.
Exactly. I like how you said that it's a good outlet for, your mental health, but it can also be to your detriment, because that's very true. I mean, I've seen so many gym bros, I think is what I would call them, on TikTok and on Instagram, and they're like, "Oh, the gym is my therapy." I'm thinking to myself, um, are you talking about your feelings, or are you pushing them down to get bigger muscles so maybe you can fight those feelings more? Because the way that I interpret it is that they are letting out that anger, which is great, like letting out those emotions in the gym, but it's also a way of suppression. They're not actually talking about it. They're not actually moving past it. They're not working towards, healing those traumas, because I think that's extremely important. Yeah, the gym is awesome. It's a great place to release endorphins, great place to get, dopamine, serotonin, all of that. But if like that's all helping your physicality, but it's not helping you necessarily mentally. So you were talking about how, you use that shirt as a conversation piece to provide peer support to another person, which I want to applaud you for that, because that's awesome. That's really great that you have that openness and willingness to reach out to someone, to be there for them, to support them, to ask them, "Hey, how are you doing?" Actually, I think we need more people like you, because I feel from my own experience, there's a lot of people that will, try to perfect their physique because they're like, this is the only thing within my control. What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. And I've definitely fallen into that, to where, like, kind of like you said before, like the gym is my therapy, right? I'm pretty sure I've made a video where it said the gym is my therapy. But I've definitely fallen into that, and then I've definitely fallen into the whole like, yeah, this is the only thing I can control, right? Because there was a point in my life where like everything felt like everything was falling apart. And I was questioning my career, family life, like just kind of a little background. Like I've been divorced twice. I have kids, like stuff like that. So going through that, and then seeing it affect your career, which you thought was the one thing that you had control over. You're like, oh man, I'm crushing this. I've been in 9 years, and just kind of I've been good at it. Like I love leading people and leading soldiers, and kind of like bringing them to find like their best self, right? Um, so I'd always been really good at it. And then there's a point where it was like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm gonna stay in. I don't know if I want to stay in. Um, and definitely like I dove deep into the gym of like, all right, well, this is the one that I control. I know that I will go to the gym this day. And I know that on Monday I'm going to do chest and biceps. And I know that on Tuesday I'm gonna do back, or whatever it's gonna do. And I know that as soon as I'm done with the gym, I'm gonna take my protein. Like everything was controlled. I could control everything. Even if someone was trying to stop, and then kind of getting back into one of the things you brought up earlier, where you can kind of become an obsession, you constantly think of it. Even if someone's trying to stop me, like, no, I go to the gym at this time every day. Like I'm gonna go. I have to go. It's just now it's like it became a thing of like, no, I need to go. And I think that has happened multiple times throughout my life, right? We're all constantly trying to grow. So no one, no matter what they say, right, has it all together. No one just one day had a like epiphany and was like, all right, I'm going to therapy and now I'm fixed. Like no matter what, it's a constant battle to continue to try to keep rising and doing better. So definitely for me, it comes and goes. I've had moments where I was like, the gym's just the gym. And then I've had moments where it's like, no, this is like my life. Like I have to be there at this time. I don't care. Like, I don't care if there's a family function going on. I don't care if there's a work function going on. Like, I need to be there at this time and I need to do this. And if I skipped a day, it was like the opposite of like healthy self-talk. It was more of like, all right, like you suck. Like, I can't believe you skipped the gym. Like, who cares if you're tired? Like, you should have gone anyways, right? So I've definitely been on both extremes. I think now personally, I'm finally, like I said, it comes and goes. You know, we're always constantly working to get better. But I do finally feel like I'm in a good medium. Because I have started going to therapy, and I started going to therapy with like an open mind. So now I'm not only am I working on my mental health while also working on my physical health. It's just all blending together. And honestly, I've gotten more results in the gym because my mind's clear. Like I'm not just working out because I'm pissed off. I'm working out because I want to. I have fun doing it. I have fun meeting people. I have fun coaching and mentoring people while I'm there. So it's become more of like it's still an outlet on days where, like, let's say it's like 6-7 o'clock at night, right? I can't go to therapy. They're probably home with their family. Let me just go to the gym real quick, let it out, like those raw emotions, let those raw emotions out. And then of course, the next day I'm gonna call my therapist. I'm gonna talk to him, talk it out.
Yeah, and you found like a healthy balance, a healthy middle ground. And that's awesome. I mean, props, dude. Props to you for going to therapy and being willing to talk about it. Let's go. I mean, I really hope more and more people feel comfortable going to therapy, more comfortable talking about their emotions, more comfortable seeking solutions. Because, no one has to go through this alone. No one has to go through any of this pain, turmoil, mental health struggles alone. Like, we humans are social creatures. We will thrive when we are together and pursuing a common goal. And what I hear from you is like, oh, I meet people in the gym and I want to, reach out and help them. I mean, that's awesome, dude. I wish I had like someone like that when I was going to the gym, because I'm now disabled. Um, I have really, really bad seizures, and I had one grand mal seizure that resulted in me falling down a huge flight of stairs and
Oh
dislocating
no.
both of my legs, and now my hip pops in and out of place. So it's not great. But hey, I'm trying to improve. But before that, I was in dance in college every single day, every morning. And then my group and I would go to the gym afterwards, after lunch. And it was everyone did their own thing. And I was always there with my service dog. And, I guess no one wants to approach someone with their service dog while they're working out, but I really wish someone did, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I was going to do my best and like try. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was still fun. I mean, I think there's a huge stigma around the gym that you should not go if you don't know what you're doing. What do you think about that stigma? Because I know that's a real one.
Oh, 100% it is. Like it, and a lot of it, what it boils down to is people go in there, and a lot of them, like you said, are trying to replace therapy with that. So they're going in there with so much anger that they have just this unapproachable face. I'll admit, like even me, like I have a pretty like. I mean, you're talking to me now. You know that I love talking to people, but I'm pretty sure if you were to see me in the gym, I naturally have a like straight face. And I think the stigma behind like, oh, you shouldn't go up to people if they're working out, like 100%. If they got weights in the air, you might want to wait till they put the weights down, just so they don't drop it. But there's absolutely no reason why, if I'm just sitting there drinking some water, you can't come up to me and be like, hey man, like I am new to the gym. I have some questions. I'm just wondering, like, and different things like that. But I think on both sides of things, right? On the side of the people who are actively going to the gym every day, right? They need to, one, become more approachable, right? Like it's not that hard to be approachable. You can make little signs of like, hey, I'm an approachable person. Whether it be like, hey, while I'm lifting, I have my headphones on, but when I'm not, I take them off, or pull one to the side, just so that if anyone needs to talk to me, they can come talk to me, right? There's different ways to make yourself more approachable. Smile, like if the gym is really something that you love doing, like there should be a smile at some point that you're there. There should be a smile on your face. And then on the other side, right? Don't be like on the side of people just going in, right? Don't be too quick to judge and scared of the people that you can clearly tell have been in there a very long time. Because I had that habit. When I first started going in, I'd go in and be like, all right, dude, I ain't talking to no one. if they're bigger than me, like I'm definitely staying away from them. They'll probably just get mad at me for coming up to them. And it wasn't until I met in the army, I met one of my squad leaders, big old dude. He's the one that got me into working out. And he was like, "Yeah, man, like watch this." And then he just like walked up to someone and was like, "Hey, man, like how you doing?" You know, like didn't interrupt their workout or any of that. And they had a conversation, and he was like, don't get me wrong, those onesies and twosies are out there. Sometimes you might come up on someone and be like, "Hey, can I talk to you real quick?" And they give you a dirty look, and they look at you, and they're just like, "Get away from me! Like, what is wrong with you?" Right? They're all out there. They're all out there, and unfortunately, right? But the majority of people, and I have noticed a huge shift in the gym culture, at least trying. There's a huge shift trying to happen with different brands, like the one that I like representing. And there's a couple of other of them that I follow on TikTok, and gym owners that I follow on TikTok. And the huge shift that everyone is trying to make happen is that more like, "Hey, come on in. Like, we want you here. Like, come on in. We don't care if you don't know what you're doing. We will help you if you need help." Right. And then personally, because one of my goals when I get out is I want to start a gym, and I want to start a clothing brand and different things like that. But personally, one of the things that I don't agree with like big gyms, right, is the charging with the whole personal training, right? In my opinion, unless you're and again, it's just my opinion, I'm sure there's gonna be people who hear this are like, you're trying to take money out of my hands, right? But in my opinion, unless you're a private personal trainer, right, not one associated with the gym, there's no reason that shouldn't already just be in what you're paying for the gym, right? If you are a gym owner and you are trying to say like, "I want you to come to my gym," I am open to everyone. I don't care if you're skinny. I don't care if you're big. I don't care if this is the beginning of your fitness journey. I don't care if you've been doing this for years. I want everyone, and I want you to feel comfortable. If that truly is your goal, then you should make it available for people who don't know what they're doing to come in and be like, "Hey, can I use one of your personal trainers to at least teach me for a month so that I can kind of get a grasp on what I'm doing? And then after that, I can do it on my own, or I can ask other people for help." That's just my opinion.
Dude, I think that's a really good point, because when I did go to the gym a few times, there would be these trainers that come up to me. They'd be like, "Hey, do you need help?" And I would get excited, be like, "Yeah, I need help." They're like, "Okay, well, you can sign up at the front desk." And I'd be like, "What? I thought you were gonna help me. I don't have any money. What are you talking about?" I'm here because I'm trying my best. But yeah, there would be like these, I guess, ripped guys in their tank tops, just like almost like, yeah, they're like sharks, like seeing who doesn't know what they're doing. I don't know. It is a little bit predatory, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I used to work for a gym when I was stationed here at Fort Sam in San Antonio. It was a CrossFit gym. I love this gym. I'm not a CrossFitter anymore, but I love this gym because it wasn't just CrossFit. I know when CrossFit first came out, it was very elitist, right? Like, unless you were the best, you shouldn't be stepping foot in a CrossFit gym. They've gone away from that. And then this gym specifically dropped they used to be called Livingstone CrossFit. They dropped the CrossFit name to make people come in. They didn't want that name up there to be like to intimidate people from coming in, because they're located like inner city San Antonio, which, like, if you know anything about San Antonio, I was born and raised in San Antonio, so if you know anything about San Antonio, like inner city, you have a lot of people who didn't grow up with like being around fitness or anything like that, right? The most fitness they did was school sports and stuff like that. So they took that name off to be more like, "Hey, come on in. Like, we want to help you." It's very family oriented. And I think that guy, so I used to work for him, the owner, he's the one that taught me of like, "Hey man, like you do something nice for people, like it's gonna come back to you." And so for me, right, I've had people reach out to me, old friends, old people that I was stationed with before. "Hey, can you help me? Like, I'm willing to pay you," and stuff like that. I'm like, no. Like, I ain't doing that. Like, it's cool. Like, I can make you tell me your goals. I can make you a plan. go for it. If you need help, like I can make you videos. Like we may not be in the same place, but I can make you videos. And if that video isn't good enough, I'll make another video. Like I'll go as detailed as you need me to, right? And let's see if this works out, right? Let's see if I can help you out. Because I'm fortunate enough that the gym and helping people reach their goals and see like their true potential, it can be a passion of mine that I can follow without having to worry about money because I already have a career. Like, yes, with the extra money being nice, of course, everyone to love a little extra spending money, right? But for me, my biggest gift to me is when I watch someone go from I have no idea what I'm doing to like I'm the king of the world, right? That to me, that's payment enough. Because that's just I wish I had that when I was first doing my fitness journey. And when I first got into it, I wish I had someone who was like, come here, dude, like let me help you out. Like I want to watch you become great. Majority of it was all on my own. And then obviously once I had been going a while, I started meeting people, right? That I was like, man, I wish I would have met you like years ago. You could have helped me a long time ago.
Yeah, that's so empowering. And it's awesome that you want to empower other people. I relate on a different level because I have a degree in theater with a minor in vocal performance. And so my mother-in-law was like, hey, you should start teaching voice lessons. And I was like, okay, I will, but I'm going to make sure the first lesson is free because if they don't like
Yeah,
what I'm
exactly.
doing, like you don't have to pay for it. Like I think that's so ridiculous. Especially with any type of service, when it's more of an extracurricular service, like say the gym or voice lessons or anything like that. I would say, yeah, first lesson should always be free, but I have no money. I do need to charge for this. If I had money, bro, I'm such a giving person. I would just give my time all day, all night. Like another thing with the podcast is whenever I have a guest on, I will make them a bracelet. I'll give them like a sticker for the podcast and like other stickers and stuff just for free, just for being on the podcast. Because I think it's important to make those connections. And after this episode, I would love if you would text me your mailing address so I can send you like a little care package for being on the podcast. So I'm really grateful to have you on. And bro, if I could give everybody like all the love and support, I would, but this capitalist society sucks. I hate it. I honestly would really thrive in, I say, the 1700s because that's when goods and services was, I think, at the peak. Like everyone did things for like, hey, you fix my car, I'll like give you some free food from my farm. Like you fix my buggy, bro. You fixed my buggy. I'm gonna go into your house and clean. Like trading like your efforts for goods. I wish we need to bring it back. Capitalism is failing us.
I agree. Like if I could meet some tattoo artists that were like, hey, you help me train up and I'll give you tattoos, be like, yeah, let's do it.
Yes, exactly. And my partner Joey, his uncle is a tattoo artist in Austin. And he does that all the time. He gives tattoos for some guy who'll give him like a gun or something. He's like, yeah, I'll get you a tattoo. I love him. Shout out to Red Stag Tattoo. Best tattoo place ever. It's where I got my raspberries. Ooh.
Oh, there we go. That's nice.
So Red Stag Tattoo, shout out. But my next question would be, why do you think that women are more associated with eating disorders than men?
Oh, so obviously I'm not a woman, so I can't speak too much on it, right? But I think honestly it goes back to the whole social media thing, right? And it also goes back to just the difference of like what society is saying a man needs to look like and a woman needs to look like. So for instance, especially now, right? Like you were saying, men are starting to be told or seen like, oh, I need to be bigger, I need to be more muscular. That involves you eating more, right? or at least eating at a decent amount. So you're going to continue eating. Whereas women, unfortunately, a lot of the commercials, the TV, the social media that's going on Instagram, TikTok, all that, it shows a very like, I need to be thin, I need to be small, I need to be this, like unhealthy fit. And that's kind of like my short little piece on that. Like I said, I can't really speak too much on it, but I think the biggest thing is just that whole, like, what we're seeing, what society is telling us we need to look at. That's how we're going to react to how we eat. And yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, society wise, the perfect body has changed over the years for a very, very long time. You think of these different periods of fashion. If we want to not go back too far, because I do know quite a bit over the subject because I took a costuming class in college, and history is one of my favorite things. But if we think about it, for the woman's body, we would base how women are supposed to appear off of paintings. So paintings are their social media, right? You have women with more softer features that would look more idealized in that time period, say like 1600s, where women had softer faces. There's more roles. You think of like any Greek or Roman statue, they have folds. You can actually see that there's carved cellulite, stuff like that, because back then, if you had money, you were bigger, right? And we think now, like say 1920s, the boyish figure, boyish quotation for 1920s was slim, boxy, women needed to be thin. There was like this whole ad campaign that if a man can put both of his hands around your waist, you had the perfect waist. And then you think going forward, Marilyn Monroe, 1940s, 1950s, where the more curvier was. And it was also a rise of feminism, of these women saying, oh, if you're going to objectify me, I'll just objectify myself. And this is a more womanly figure. And then now, like today, where we have this Everybody's Body is Beautiful campaign currently going on, where people are trying to be more conscious of how they perceive others and how they perceive themselves. But again, it is a little toxic from my own point of view, because you're like, oh, she's so beautiful. But yes, Gigi, sorry. Gigi wants to say hello.
What's up, Gigi?
You say hi, Gigi. She's causing a fit. This is what she does whenever she wants to be noticed. So yeah.
We noticed
you, Gigi. We notice you. Well, it's like, again, you see in the media, these superheroes, the guys that you want to look up to. Yeah. Like, they're getting a lot of attention, and a lot of young minds will correlate that to, oh, I need to look that way so that I can be favored. And it worries me. Why do you think so many men hide that they have eating disorders? Why do you think so many men hide that they have eating disorders or body dysmorphia?
I think just in general, right? I mean, at least I know that's the way, like, I grew up, right? Was, you don't really talk about your problems, your emotions, right? Anything that could come off to anyone as you looking weak, you kind of just push that aside and you deal with it on your own, like in private. You don't really kind of push that out to anyone. And personally, like, I have seen, because I do have kids, right? So I have seen some parents, like, to include myself, right, or like trying to change that perspective, that view on it, of like, hey, like, there's something wrong, come talk to me, like, we need to talk this out, right? There's no, like, pushing it down is not going to help. But they're definitely the majority, unfortunately, it is still out there, of like men keeping to themselves, men keeping those emotions to themselves. Even sometimes, because I know I've made a video, right, and I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, maybe like that could be taken a bad way, right? So I'm pretty sure I've made a video, and if I haven't, I know I've seen someone make a video basically talking about how like, oh, men don't have anyone to talk to. They're not allowed to talk to anyone. They need to be strong. They need to be, and whereas like, yeah, me or that person may have tried to put that video out as like bringing awareness of like, hey, like this is happening right now. It could also be taken on on the negative, right? Which I hope not, right? I hope that doesn't happen. I hope because the whole point of it is bringing awareness of like, hey, this is what men are dealing with. I'm brave enough to like put it out there. But it could be, right, it could be taken as like, oh, okay, well, that is what men need to do. Like that's what men are doing right now. It's what we need to continue to do. Like that's just the norm, right? And so I think that's where the shift needs to happen. There needs to be more of an awareness of like, hey, men feel this way, whether or not they grew up feeling that way, whether or not their personal parents or their friends were the ones that made them think that, or it's just in general they're seeing things on social media, or they're seeing things in the TV or on the movies, or in interactions out in the world. Something is going on that is getting pushed in our brain that we need to just stay to ourselves, right? So if we are having some sort of eating disorder, whether it's we're not eating enough or we're eating way too much, it comes off as weak. We're going to keep that to ourselves. Whether every time we look in the mirror, like we don't like what we see, it's going to stay to ourselves, right? And I think what really needs to happen is there needs to be more like, one thing I'll give women, right? Like they're like, especially recently, I've seen a lot of videos. They are really, really pushing out there that, hey, men are also dealing with things. Like they're also like this is what men are dealing with. This is why this is part of the reason why they are the way they are, right? But and I appreciate it, and I know other men appreciate it too. But I know for a fact, until more men come out and are like, hey, like I don't care if this makes me look weak. Like I'm not okay, and I know you're not okay either, and it's okay to not be okay, and we need to talk about it. And all our problems, down to our personal problems, our work problems, our relationship problems, all boil down to the fact that we don't like talking about our feelings. So it just gets pent up, and then it comes out at the wrong time in the wrong way.
Yeah, true. And I was a nanny to 4 boys. I raised them for 7 years. Love them very, very much. If they're watching one day in the future, I love you dudes, my little bros. But I spoke with the middle child, and he was about 12 at the time, and he's going through puberty. Just going through those changes. And he asked me, he's like, why is it only okay for me to be angry? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, on like the TV, like the only emotion that I see guys having is anger, like, or outbursts, or punching things, or fighting. Why is that the only emotion that's okay for me to have? That broke me. And a little kid, preteen, like he's saying this in the media of like, guys are stoic, guys are strong, guys are the foundation of the family will crumble if the guy is weak, or something like that. And he's like, well, why am I not allowed to cry? Like, you are allowed to cry, buddy. You need to cry. You need to have those emotions. You need to cry. That's important. Yes, Gigi. You need to have those outpouring of emotions. And, the only way that most men feel like they're allowed to is through anger, because that's when everything is like super pent up and there's nothing else you can do but feel anger. But anger is a good emotion too. It's just the way that you use that anger. Just like with sadness. Sadness is like, it's not a negative emotion. It's a good emotion to have. It's normal. We need to feel sad. We need to mourn things. And it's only when we suppress those emotions that we start to have issues and problems. And Gigi is wanting to say hello again. She's even closer.
Gigi.
Gigi. But yeah, she wants to comfort me. She's a seizure alert dog. So whenever she feels me getting amped up, she's like, there's something wrong. But I have a emotion wheel back here. And it ranges from the angers, the disgust, sad, happy, surprise, and fear. None of these emotions are negative. Can they have negative connotations? Of course. But none of them are negative. None of them are positive either. Can they have positive connotations? Yes. But things just are. And I think it starts with reparenting yourself when you're, reaching that point of, dude, I am so angry. I don't understand. Why am I so angry? What am I supposed to do with this anger? Of reparenting yourself, say, hey, it's okay to be angry. It's just what you do with that anger. And then giving yourself space to fully feel, because you already have those emotions, but to fully allow yourself to feel them and go through them. And I think with body dysmorphic disorder, you're having these full ranges of feelings, but a lot of the times you're suppressing them because, yeah, you're perceived as weak. It's the same thing with men and women. Like, if we don't address the problem's going to get worse. And a lot of people will become suicidal because of their body dysmorphia. And I think suicide rates are much, much higher for those with diagnosed body dysmorphic disorder. And it's scary because suicide is getting worse in our generation. More and more people are committing suicide than ever before. Now, there's a whole lot of factors involved in that, right? We have the social economic crisis going on right now. We have never before are we fully just aware of all of these social political problems happening, right? It's on our feet. The war with Israel versus Hamas, Israel versus Palestine has been a big thing since Abraham, but it's worse. There's earthquakes in Morocco. There's earthquakes that are happening there. Thousands of people that are dying. We're seeing all this on our feed constantly. The stress is getting higher, and more people are feeling everything is just futile. And then again, on your feed, you're seeing all these people with their perfect bodies getting all these likes and all these subscribers. And it never before are we more aware that mental health is something that needs to be addressed with men, with women, but I think especially with young men. And I think once we start to prioritize mental health, I think that's what will really save the coming generations from self-destructive behaviors. And eating disorders are serious mental disorders with severe and life-threatening medical and psychological consequences if left untreated. They're not issues of willpower or methods of dieting, but they're potentially deadly diseases that require professional, medical, and therapeutic treatment, as well as support through peers and therapeutic support. It's not that you're weak. When we have problems, it's not that you're weak. Everyone has problems. It's that there's a problem. Let's address it. If you have a car and the car gets a flat tire, you don't yell at the car and say, "You're weak. How dare you? How dare you succumb to that nail? Oh my God, you're so weak." No, you address the problem, you fix it, and you move on. Poor tire, though. But yeah, do you think nowadays that social media is to blame for the rise in body dysmorphia?
Ooh, that's a good one, right? So I think it definitely has the potential to be something great and be a great tool to be, bring that awareness of, mental health by dysmorphia, the help that's out there, right? And that the fact that you're not alone is definitely could be a great tool. Unfortunately, I do agree that a lot of the reasons things are rising is because of social media. Because you definitely have those two polar opposites that are going on, right? And so it's almost like a battle within itself. You have the one side that is trying to bring that awareness, trying to show people that they're not alone and that there's help out there and where to get the help, right? And then you got the other side of it that's just like, no, let's just go full in on it. Like it's already a thing. Like, let's just keep it a thing. Let's make people think that this is normal. Like, no, you do need to be this size. No, you do need to be this big. No, you do need to have this many followers to mean anything, right? So unfortunately, there's just that battle that's going on, and it kind of just keeps doing this and this and this and this, right? And then it comes down to you as a person. If you are not ready to take that step of like, I want to get better, right? Because I noticed it in my feed. Like, let's just take TikTok alone. Noticed it in my feed. Prior to me being open-minded about wanting to go to therapy and finally, right, I got to a point where I was like, I've been doing this on my own, and what I'm doing is not working. Like, I am not getting better. I am getting worse. Nothing's working. So I finally, had that open mind. I was like, let me try therapy out. Let me see if I can make an even balance between something that I'm passionate about and something that I know is good for me. Mm-hmm. And, again, still working on it. I have my days where I'm like everyone does. But we're working on it. But I noticed making that change, my feed went from all of those influencers who were like showing me, oh, I need to look this big to matter, or I need this many followers to matter, or I need to do this to matter, to now, like, my feed, I am surrounded by nothing but, I give my onesies and twosies the other side, but for the most part, I'm surrounded by nothing like you, the people who are trying to change the gym culture into a more healthy, positive, welcoming, community, and then also surrounded by people who have been through things that I've been through, have been through things worse than I have been through, and have figured out a way out, right? So now I know that I'm not alone. I know where to go get the help. I'm able to find where to get the help. I know that I have a community that has my back. They might not know me. They might not know me for anything, but I know that in some way we resonate with each other. So I'm confident enough that if I was on the side of the road and I were to run into them, I'd be able to at least have a genuine conversation with them, based off of what I'm seeing. But it was just crazy seeing a huge shift in my feed, going from just negative, you're depressed, to stay depressed. No one wants, just keep it to yourself, keep your head down, like sad videos that weren't bringing like awareness of like, go get help. It was just like, you're sad, stay with it, right? To now I made this huge shift to where, like I said, I have people like you who are putting out there like, hey, you're not alone. Like, and there's places you can go to get help. The gym community that's like, hey, I also agree with you. Like, we need to change the culture. We need to be more welcoming. We need everyone in the gym. And, to take like, not to get so obsessed that it's just like all about looks, but just take your fitness and health into consideration, right? Let's become a more healthy community, in a positive way. And then again, the other section of my feed is all about like, all right, you can be down and out, but you can get right back up and just keep going, just keep building and keep building. It's all about just keep going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes from a song is like, when you hit rock bottom, you got two ways to go, straight up and sideways. I'm like, bro, yes. And the next verse is like, I've seen my share of hard times, and I'm letting you know, straight up is my way. And I'm just like, that is one of my favorite amped up songs. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to keep going. Things are bad, but I'm going to keep going.
It's crazy you bring that up. I had a teacher in high school, right? I think it was my junior or senior year. And it was looking like I wasn't gonna graduate. So she, she talks to me, she's like, hey, you or she was, I think she was the principal at the time or vice principal. Anyways, she's like, you've dug yourself a hole. Like you are down in the bottom of this hole. And she's like, so now this is your option. I'm throwing you a rope. She said, I can throw you a rope and you can pull yourself out, or I can throw you a shovel and you can just keep digging down. So it's up to you. And so like I think I always think back to that. Like when I get like, and it's crazy, right? Because it was probably one of the smallest interactions that I ever had with her. And this was, I'm 28 now. This was when I was like 17, maybe. So almost 10, 11 years ago, right? And to this day, like I'll get in a very, very low point and I'll be like, you know what? She's right. Like if she was right in front of me, she'd be telling me, all right, well, like, are you gonna take the rope or are you gonna take the shovel? Like, what are you gonna do? It's up to you. At the end of the day, it's your choice. But what are you gonna do? Or like you said, are you gonna rise or are you gonna keep going sideways or keep going down?
Exactly. Give me 1 second. I've seen men all over the internet say, I don't need therapy. I go to the gym. Do you think this is a harmful statement?
I do. I do because I've been there and I know for a fact it doesn't help. Um, I was talking to so me and my ex-wife, we're on really good terms. Like we're like best friends. We have kids together, so um, but we're on really good terms. So I'm grateful for that. But I had that conversation with her, right? I just honestly, honestly, I'll be honest with you. I was in a very, very low point like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had just gotten back from Romania. I was on a rotation out there. I just gotten back. And that was, this time when we're decided, like I personally decided like, hey, like, I think we need to get divorced because I had a realization that I'm not being the best husband. And the reason I'm not being the best husband isn't because I don't want to try. It's because I personally have things that I need to work on. And unfortunately, I need to do that by myself. I've never been alone. Like that's another problem. Like that's a problem that I'm working through, right? Like since I was in middle school, high school, I've always had someone with me, a girlfriend or a really good friend or something. I've always had someone with me. So very, very codependent, right? I realized that's something I need to work on. And I realized that the whole reason I never worked on myself or worked on my mental health is because I always had someone to just like fall back on, right? So now that I'm working on myself, like it's made our relationship that much better. Like I said, we're best friends. We mesh really good together, and it comes down to me like realizing that I needed help, right? So I had a conversation with her, and I was like, I love the gym, and I was that guy. I was like, oh, the gym is my therapy. I don't need to talk to anyone. Like I feel better when I'm at the gym. In all reality, no, I don't. I feel better when I do when I'm at the gym. For those 1 to 2 hours, everything melts away. All my stress, everything I'm worried about, all my emotions, like it's all gone. Like I am focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's bettering myself. That's lifting the weight. That's putting the weight away. That's doing whatever cardio that I'm gonna do. That is it. That is all I'm focused on, and that's why I feel better. It's because I am only focusing on one thing, right? For me personally, I know everyone has their own things that I know you heard the term of like, oh, the voices are getting louder in my head, right? And everyone has like has that one thing that silences those voices, whether it be music, whether it be reading a book. For me, it's the gym. When I'm in the gym, like those voices are quiet. Like you're not good enough, gone, dude's out the door. You're not doing enough, gone, dude's out the door. Like, all those voices are gone, right? But I made a video. If you go back on my TikTok, you'll see it, right? Like part of the video is me in the gym. I'm going to lift up a weight, and I got a big old smile on my face. And then it cuts, and it says right after the gym, and it's just me sitting in the car staring at the steering wheel, right? Now that video obviously was staged, but that's literally what I do. That is what I do. That is a thing that happens. Not every day, right? Because some days I just have a good day. So like I go in the gym, I'm having a good time. I come out, I'm still in a good mood, right? But on the days that it's getting bad, like I'm in the gym, everything's great. And the moment I walk out and I get in that car, it's like, boom, I'm back to reality. and I can't help but just sit there in silence and stare. And I'm a music guy. Like, I love music. Like, if you're ever in the car with me, I'm blasting music. If I'm ever walking around by myself, I have headphones on. But there are some days where it's like the gym helps me out for those 2 hours, right? Silence all those voices, melt away all those stresses. But the moment I walked out that door and I got into a car, all I wanted to do was sit there in silence and like, I'll admit it, I don't care. There's been times I've cried. Like, I'm sitting there, right, staring at the steering wheel, like, man, I don't feel good. I felt good, and now I feel horrible. Like, I still feel bad. Like, why? Why do I not feel good like anymore? You know? And it's definitely a coping mechanism. It's definitely a band-aid. It's not a fix. It's a band-aid. It's not therapy. You're not talking to anyone. Those emotions aren't coming out. The only thing is you're tiring your body. You're not tiring your mind. Your mind is going to continue racing. At the moment you walk out, your mind is going to kick right back in. So your body can be as tired as you want, right? You can train to failure for 1 to 2 hours, and you can be like, oh, my body's dead to the world. Like, I just want to go sleep. But guess what? That mind is just going to keep going. That mind's going to keep reminding you, like, hey, by the way, this was what was bothering you before you walked in there. Hey, by the way, this is what happened today. Hey, did you figure out an answer to that? Like, it's just going to keep going. So yeah, it's definitely a horrible statement to make. And it's a horrible statement to be pushing out to people of like, yeah, you don't need therapy. Just go to the gym. Just go to the gym. And am I sitting here saying like, hey, do you need to go to a therapist? No, like for some people, venting to a friend is good enough, right? Because some people don't need answers. Some people know the answers. They just need to get the emotions out and feel like they're being heard, right? So I'm not necessarily sitting here saying you need to go to therapy and that's the only way you're going to get better. But what I am saying is the gym is not going to make you completely better. It's going to be a band-aid for that little moment in time. And the moment you walk out, you go right back to the way you felt.
That's such a good point to make. It's like the moment you leave the gym, you know, the problems that you left at the door are still waiting for you at the door. And I think it's really important to recognize, you know, yeah, the gym is a great tool, but it's not a cure-all. And I'm not negating how important the gym is. To some people, the gym has saved their lives. Legitimately, it has given them some purpose. It's helped them work on themselves and improve themselves for the better. What'd you say?
I said 100%. I agree with you. That's what it did for me.
Yeah. And that working on yourself should not stop with your physicality.
Agree.
And it's the same thing with people who have mental health issues and they're working on their mental health, but they're being couch potatoes. I'm calling myself out here. If you feel called out, like, we see each other. But it's also important, you know, we have to have that full mind-body connection. If there's something wrong with you physically, you should work on it. If there's something wrong with you mentally, you should work on it. You know, the healing journey is not linear. It's kind of like a loop-de-loop. You're going to go through these periods of just like, oh, I'm doing so well. I'm doing so well. And I'm back in the pit. And then I'm climbing out of the pit. I'm doing so well. And I'm back in the pit. But that doesn't mean that you're not still healing. That doesn't mean that you're not still progressing. Just like if you're on a roller coaster, if you're going on a loop-de-loop, are you suddenly like back where you started? No. That's what life is. It's kind of like a roller coaster. You're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, and you're going to have your in-betweens. And it's important to just keep going. Please don't fling yourself off the ride. I promise it'll get better. What do you think of the saying, I transmute my pain into purpose?
Oh, I think I can resonate with that a lot, right? So for me, for instance, I you know, starting off unhealthy, like I'll admit it, starting off unhealthy, I took all that pain and I just threw it into the gym. Really no purpose behind it, just like I want to get it out, right? But had I not done that, I would have not realized I end up getting a passion for it. And I'm getting a passion for coaching people and mentoring people and doing stuff like that. So once I got past that, like, hey, like you did this kind of an unhealthy manner. Let's start over, right? Because my fitness journey, my gym story has gone in and out. I've gone months, almost years, not going to the gym because of like my mental health issues. Like I just didn't feel good enough to be in there, right? And I finally got to a point where I was like, I am good enough. Like why not? Why am I not good enough? You know? So and I took a different approach to it. Like let me take this approach more healthy. I have all this pain, right? I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that has this pain. What is the easiest way for me to talk to people? Well, let me find something that they are also interested in that I'm interested in. And I was a gym. Everyone starts their fitness journey, whether they want to admit it or not, usually because they have some sort of pain, whether it's because of the way they look or the way they see themselves, or someone made a comment to them, or whether it is because like I've been through so much shit, or sorry, I don't know.
No, you can curse. Yeah.
I've been through so much shit in my life, right? This is the only thing I can control. Anyone you talk to, 9 times out of 10, their fitness journey started because they had some sort of pain. So the way I took it was like, all right, well, like, what's my purpose, right? And I say this all the time to some of my friends. I'm like, I feel like I'm not meant to be Hercules. I'm meant to be the little goat dude who trained Hercules, right? And the reason I say that is
Philosophides, Phil?
yeah, I think, yeah. The reason I say that, right, is because can I be successful? 100%. And I love being successful, and that's cool, right? Like I love reaching my goals, and working towards them and stuff and seeing my full potential. But personally, like I think my full potential 100% has everything to do with helping other people reach their full potential, reach their goals, reach things they want, like their dreams, and getting there and grasping something that they never thought they were going to be able to grasp, right? And that was my way of taking that pain that I had and you know, just feeling alone and turning it into like, all right, I felt this way. I don't want anyone else feeling this way. I don't care who you are. You could be mean to me, and I still don't want you feeling the way I felt, right? So let me take this pain. Let me figure out a way I can use it to fulfill my purpose, which, again, in my opinion, is being able to help other people reach their full potential and realize that they're not alone, that they have help.
Awesome. I mean, props, dude. There needs to be more people like you. And I know it all starts like the only way that you can help other people is if you help yourself first. The only way you can help anybody else is if you help yourself first. You need to put your mask on.
Yep. That's what I was about to say.
You got to put your own mask on before you can help somebody else with their mask. And it's the same thing with, I mean, my whole purpose for this podcast, you know, I don't know everything. I don't know very much. I know a little bit about healing because I'm going through it. I have had a very traumatic life, to say the least. And the past 3-4 years have been the worst years of my life. But because of those really horrible years, I can now reach out to other people who are also suffering. You know, I found a lot of free resources when I was going through hell, and now I can use those resources to help other people. And it's super beneficial. This is my job, and I love this job. I finally got, you know, my LLC for the Trauma Dump podcast, so I'm just like,
Congratulations.
let's go. Get wrecked, all you other copycats, because I've had 3 people.
Oh my God. Well, at least you know you're doing something good, right?
I know, literally. That's what my dad would always tell me. He's like, whenever people copy you, you need to be so just like, you like my idea that much that you want to steal it? Okay. Because, you know, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but if you have a great product, if you have a great idea, if you have a passion, if you have a goal, no one can duplicate that goal, and no one can make that goal better than what you already have. And I fully believe that with everything in my body. You have a goal, if you have a passion, and you have an idea, no one is going to make it better. They might just make it different. It might be better for them, but it will not be better than what you decide for yourself. And that's what I have to keep telling myself all the time, is like, yeah, this podcast is very little right now, but success is not measured in numbers. Success is measured in how you feel about yourself. It is measured in your joy, your passion. Like, for me, I feel so successful because I'm like, I'm doing what I love. I know that I'm helping other people. I know that I'm making a difference, and helping one person is honestly changing the world for that one person. And numbers really don't matter. And I run into this a lot because, I am starting off my own small business. And so I've had some naysayers, and, they're like, well, why don't you just like work for another company and, figure out your podcast while you're working for another company? And I'm like, well, I can't give the podcast my full attention, and I cannot make it as amazing as I want it to be. I'll never be satisfied with it because I won't have enough time and energy devoted to it. This is my passion project, and I have full faith that it will succeed. Will it take a while? Maybe. But it's the same thing with your mental health journey, your physical health journey. Your progress is your progress. We should not measure our progress against another person's, because that's unfair. It's so unfair. You're not duplicates of one another. This isn't a science project where you have a control and a bunch of we're all so unique and different and beautiful. And to compare yourself to another person is like comparing a rose to a lily. They're both very beautiful. Don't compare them. Let them be beautiful on their own. And I have to tell myself that all the time with my own physicality, of looking at myself in the mirror and be like, dude, I'm gorgeous. Do I have flaws? Sure, but they're perceived. What some person may think of a flaw on me could be another person be like, oh my gosh, dude, her curls, amazing. And then one other person look at my red hair and be like, Raggedy Ann,
No, I get you. It's like that saying, perfect imperfections.
Exactly. Do you agree that men having self-esteem issues does not get enough attention in society?
Personally, yeah. I think we are moving in a direction where it's going to start getting a little more attention than it used to in the past. And I do think that it has started to get a little more attention than it has in the past, right? But 100%, I do think that with that whole stigma of like, oh, men are just supposed to be tough, like nothing bothers them and stuff like that, that it's just automatically assumed like we don't care that someone doesn't look at us a certain way, or they do look at us a certain way, right? Like people joke about it all the time, like how like, oh, women take all this time to get ready to go out, whether it's just to the movies or whatever, and like guys just throw on whatever, and it's because they don't care what people think about. And it's like, no, that's completely opposite. That is not what happens, right? 100%. Like I'll admit it myself. I'm not the best. Like I'm not a very like was it fashionista? I guess is that what the word is?
Fashion forward, like
Yeah,
fashion conscious.
100%. So like but I do try. Like I'll sit there. I'm like, man, if I wear this color shirt or this color shorts, like, will people look at me weird? I even saw, for instance, this recently happened, right? I was wearing, so typically I'll wear like the 5-inch seam shorts, right? So the kind of short, above the knee shorts. There's like one time I wore like shorts that went below the knee, I got called out on it. It was like, oh, you wearing dad shorts or something like that, and I was like, what? And then I'm not even gonna lie, like for like the next couple of days, I was like, I'm never buying shorts below the knees again. Like I can't even just walk. I said like, it's the smallest thing ever, right? But it happens. Like it does happen. Like I have like you can't see it now because I can't wear it while I'm in uniform. But my hair is naturally curly, like extremely curly. So for work, I slick it back, and that's another thing, right? Like for work, I have to change my whole. If I want my hair long, I have to change my whole hairstyle because it won't look professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
When in other people, like when I was in Romania, curly hair is like a thing, like curly, kind of a little bit messy hair, like that's a thing. Like business people wear their hair like that, and so it's just crazy. It's just the different cultures, right? And then even growing up, right? Like now I've learned to like embrace my curly hair. Like I actually really like it. I know that there are people out there that like my curly hair. But growing up, I hated it. Like I was like, oh no, I want straight hair. Like I was a little skater, so I was like, oh, I want straight hair that I can just like put the bangs to the side. And like I had a best friend who had straight hair, right? And I was like, or at most, I want wavy hair. But this curly hair, like this sucks. Like this is horrible, right? Um, so like we do think about these things. It's just people assume we don't care. Like people assume it's just like, oh well, I mean, yeah, sure, someone can make a comment and you're not gonna care, right? And then it goes along with like, unfortunately, there are some dudes out there that give other guys bad names, right? Like if a female comments on something on him or another guy comments on something on him, he's an asshole. So it puts out that idea of like, oh, well, we just don't care. We're gonna act like an asshole if you call us out on anything, but it's because we don't care. And it's like, no, like that dude, he cares, and that's why he's acting like an asshole. It's because you hurt his feelings, and he just doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really interesting you pointed that out that again, when we perceive a slight against us with women, a lot of women will be like calling another woman out, like, why would you say that about me? Like, how dare you? And then if a man does the same thing, it's perceived as him being an asshole. It's these weird double standards that we really need to abolish because, if someone is called out on their appearance, like with your shorts, and you have a natural reaction to be like, yo, bro, that's not funny. Like, how dare you? And they're like, oh, you're being such an ass. Like, no, we need to acknowledge that, hey, I'm having a real human reaction. I did not like what you said about that. And then someone apologized and then you move forward. I think we need to start doing that more because, yes, there's the word like you can choose to be offended, but some people will try to offend you on purpose to
Yeah.
get a reaction. And we gotta nix that. We gotta put that in the bud.
Yeah.
Like absolutely not. Let's
Yeah.
stop with the constant attack towards another person to get a reaction.
Yeah, and it's on purpose. Like I've had it happen to me. Like so this company, right? Every once in a while they'll put out like limited edition hoodies, and shirts, right? And so one of the ones that I got, I was super excited about. It was like they only put like 50 out. One of the ones I got, it was a white hoodie, and it's all custom, so they do it by hand, and it's like it was splattered neon paint, and it was like pink, yellow, like light colors, right? To me, I'm like, dude, this is a badass hoodie. And it's like other people are like I had someone comment, and then it was to get a reaction on me, like, why are you wearing that hoodie? Like that's a feminine hoodie, that's a girl hoodie or stuff like that. Or I have pictures on my Instagram, right? When I used to go to the CrossFit gym and I used to work out there, we'd have competitions where it was themed. And we had one, it was a 3-day competition. We had one, it was themed, and it was tie-dye, neon, and then like team colors or whatever. All 3 days, I wore super short shorts, right? And I wore a crop top because I was like, this is it. Like you're supposed to be in a crazy, like you're supposed to be in crazy clothes. And so me, I'm like, I think crop tops are dope. But two, I was just like, I'm having fun. Like I'm having a good time, right? And because when I first got to the unit that I'm at now, right, one of my soldiers was like, yeah, smart. Like I saw one of your videos. He's like, I thought something else like about you at first until I met you, and I was like, well, what? I was like, what'd you think? I was like, I was having a good time. Like I was working out with my friends. We're supposed to wear something crazy. Like I wore something crazy. I don't care. And then in like the same breath, right? Like we have these things in the military called ranger panties, right? So they're like underwear, but they're shorts and they're just super short. They're like super short. They're like thigh highs, right? And that's normal to wear. Like everyone wears that. But the moment you wear shorts that are that high that aren't specifically those, it's like, what are you wearing there? Yeah.
Mm, yeah, we need to stop it. We need to stop it. Honestly, I mean, again, I was raising 4 boys for 7 years, and the back and forth of just the mockery, like I could not stand it. And they didn't do it when it was just them. But as soon as like another kid like came over, the kid would always introduce it, and then it was just like, we need to not allow it to happen, because words do hurt. Like we can joke about it, right? Until you actually know a person, you know their personality, you know what's okay to joke about. You can have an offhanded comment with someone and then it could last with them for their entire lives. Like for me, for example, my dad had just been hit by a car and my mother had completely disowned me. Like I was a sophomore in college, and she cut me and my siblings off completely financially a week after my dad was hit by a car. So that's phone plan, health insurance, car insurance, iCloud. So I had to figure that all out for my siblings. And I was talking in the green room behind the theater to people like about it. And this guy came by and he was like, everyone has their problems, Grace. I was like, okay. And he was like, everyone has their problems. Stop bullshitting about yours. Your problems are not that big. It's like, what are you talking about? You
Yeah.
just walked in. These are really bad problems. Like I was legitimately homeless for 4 months because my mother disowned me, and she signed a paper that she no longer wanted to be my guarantor for college. So I got kicked out of my apartment because I didn't have money for it.
Yeah.
It's like,
These are kind of big,
this is
big.
kind of a big problem. I'm living in my car. You're telling me that this is not a big problem? And then another time he said to me, which he was never my friend or anything like that, but I was talking to another person, and he's always around. But I was talking to another person. I was like, yeah, a lot of my friends who I thought were my friends like stopped talking to me. And then he said, well, no one wants to be attached to a sinking ship. And that still sticks with me. That
Yeah.
was years ago. Years ago. I graduated college last year. Like that was at least 4 years ago. And it still sticks with me. And I don't know if he was joking or what, but comments like that, like you never know how much your words can impact another person. So please, like to our listeners, please choose your words wisely. If you notice someone is struggling, please don't make their struggle worse. Like, please don't
Oh yeah.
pile onto it.
Like to add on to that, like I think the worst comes from someone that like you're super close to. Like you thought like you had a genuine connection to, right? I had a I had a girl who I was dating, and like I got super close to her. Probably the closest I've ever gotten. And then she wasn't ready, right? She wasn't ready for a relationship, and she had to work on herself, right? But no explanation, like no explanation. It was just out of the blue. Like one day we're good, one day we're not, right? Which I was cool with, like, all right, work on yourself. Like you really need to work on yourself, go work on yourself. But I needed some sort of closure, right? And so because I had like in a very long time hadn't opened myself up the way I did with her, I was like an emotional wreck. And we had a conversation where I was an emotional wreck, and I started like I ain't gonna lie, like I started crying. And she was like, one, she was like, oh, like please don't start crying. And then two, she was like, I just like these words. She was like, I just need you to act like a man about this. And I was like, So and it's crazy, and like you said, like it's crazy. You don't know what words can do, right? Because in that instant, I physically felt all my emotions just turn off, all of them. Tears were gone. My face went straight, and I was like, you know what? You're right. I do just gotta be a man. Like, you can leave now. And then she left. I have moved past that, right? Like, so like I obviously like now I'm about opening and sharing my feelings, but I'm not gonna lie, like for that one moment, I was like, okay, well, the one person that I had finally been comfortable enough to like open up to, right? And be like, hey, like I'm gonna give you everything. I'm gonna give you all my emotions. I'm gonna do stuff that I've never done before. Just told me that I was pretty much too emotional and I needed to be a man. Like maybe I should just go back to turning it off, right? So it's just like you said, like words mean something. And then depending on who they come from, how they're framed towards someone can really affect their whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it sucks. Like, I was raised in a very conservative Jamaican household, and my grandparents, my Mimi and Papa, were raised in a third world country. I mean, Jamaica's the third world country. And when they came to America and had their boys and like started raising us grandchildren, like emotions were not something you were really allowed to have. And I have very big emotions all the time. And so I remember as a child, I mean, my Mimi is so much better now. My papa's dead now, but he got better over time. But I remember just having like moments where I was crying because I was going through a lot as a kid. And I won't get into it in this episode, but I was going through a lot. And my Mimi would tell me, oh, there's no use crying about it. Like crying is not going to help you in any way. You need to stop crying. And I would be like, well, I'm upset. She's like, well, you need to get over it and you need to do something else because crying is not productive. And she would tell me that all the time. Crying is not productive. And that's not true. Crying is actually one of the most productive things you can do. It releases a lot in your body. It really does. And it can start to spur on that healing process because when you cry, when you're recognizing that something is wrong, and once you let out those emotions, you can fully be able to rectify the situation or accept the situation or what have you. And when you suppress those things, that's when you're actually hindering your growth. I'm so glad that little Grace was so stubborn and be like, no, I'm going to cry anyway. Screw all of you. I'm just going to cry. Because, dude, I am a much more healthy person emotionally because of it. Because I recognize I need to have my emotions. You can call me a drama queen all you want. That doesn't make it true at all. But emotions are necessary. You're born with those emotions. And when you suppress them, you're hindering your growth, you're hindering your progress. And especially when it comes to mental illness, if you're not recognizing that you're mentally ill, your mental illness can get worse and can get to the point where some people will commit suicide because they're like, well, there's something wrong with me. I guess I'm just not going to exist anymore. That will solve the problem, as if I just don't exist. And I've had those suicidal feelings before. I have been hospitalized several times for those feelings before. And I'm so glad that I was hospitalized. I'm so glad that I got help because I deserve to be here. And any of the people listening who struggle with suicidal behavior, self-harm, like body dysmorphia, you deserve to be here. You deserve to exist. You deserve to have a life. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to love yourself. And that journey may take a long time, but it's a journey that you should take and it's worth going on.
I agree.
Ask you, how are you feeling right now? How are you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, it's up and down, right? So I have some nights where I'm just like, oh man, I'm alone. So like, uh, I got, like I said, the whole like me and my wife having a divorce started right before I got back from Romania, which was 3 weeks ago. Well, immediately coming from Romania, I stayed in the barracks, uh, which is just like a little, basically like a hotel room, right? So that her and the kids could stay in the house. And I was alone in there, and all my dudes like that, like friends or buddies that I have, are still in Romania, or like still gone. So I had no one to hang out with. So my day consisted of like being in the room all day, going to the gym, being in the room all day, going to the gym. And then I like currently I'm in. I know I had talked to you earlier about it. Like I'm in a course right now. So I went from the barracks over there to now I'm in a hotel room in San Antonio, and it's nice and all because my family's here, right? But uh, they kind of like they're living their own life, and I'm over here again. I go to school, go to the gym, and I come back to my room. I have been trying more because again, I'm so used to having someone next to me, whether it's a girlfriend, a wife, or a best friend, right? That I'm a very big extrovert, and I taken this test before, like for work, right? About like what kind of extrovert are you, or what kind of introvert are you? And I in that test I hit every single point of like an extrovert but one. And the one thing that I didn't hit was that I don't go places by myself. Like I don't go to places I've never been by myself. I have to always have a friend with me, right? Granted, like some of that's like safety. It's just like, oh, let me have someone there just in case. But the other bit is because like, and I realized it a couple days ago. Like I was coming back and I was like, from visiting my sister. I was like, man, I kind of want to drink. And like I passed a little bar or whatever, and I was like, nah, I feel too like nervous to go by myself. Like, and I had been there before. That was the crazy part. I've been there before. It's right off a base, so it's like military friendly. I've been there before. It's a comfortable environment, but I saw the times that I gone was with a buddy, and it was pretty empty. And when I passed, I noticed that the whole parking lot was full, and I was like, nah, I'm okay. And because the other reason is when I'm not in uniform, like I have earrings, I have a nose ring, and I know a lot of veterans go there, like older veterans, and I was like, oh, if they find out I'm military, like, and I'm wearing all this, like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it. And then my hair was all like curly. I started to have like a mini panic attack. It was crazy, right? So it was just, uh, it's just crazy. Anyways, that was 2 days ago, right? Today I'm feeling pretty good. School or class or whatever is kind of boring. It was long, but other than that, like I was super excited. That's why I reached out to you, is because when you reached out to me about doing this interview, like I got super excited. Which one, it's like me in the sense of I like talking to people, but it's unlike me in the sense of like, I'm about to put all my stuff out. Like I don't know if I want to do that. But I don't know. It was just weird because when you messaged me, it was a weird like pull in my heart and in my brain of just like, yeah, say yes. Like there was no doubt in my mind. There was no, which I would usually do, of like sit there like, should I do this? Do I really want to put my stuff out there? Do I like I'd weigh the options, right? No, it was like immediately I read your message and I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like I'm doing this. Because again, like I realized like I am starting to gain a lot of traction on healing myself, right? And a lot of it was done on my own, was by myself. And some of that granted was like self-inflicted, doing it by myself, right? Pushing people away like as a natural like reaction. But when I saw your message, I was like, all right, this is my opportunity. Like this is my opportunity to, one, share my story, and two, like there I don't even care if it's one person that watches this show and is like, oh holy shit, I'm not alone. Like, cool. And like anyone listening, feel free to reach out to me. Like you need help with anything, right? Reach out to me. I'm all about it. Like I love making new friends, making new connections. So what I needed today was like that's the only thing I've been thinking about today, right? Is doing this interview. So yeah, I'm feeling great. Like I was super excited about coming here, coming on the show, and it also showed like you helped me show myself that I've kind of grown a lot, because I told you there's a point in time where gym took priority over everything. There's a point in time where I would have told you no, because after work I'm going to the gym. Like, that's that. So you helped me see it, because I was like, man, I didn't think about the gym once today. I was like, oh man, like all I care about is doing this interview. Like, I'm super excited about it. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Awesome. I mean, speaking directly to our listeners, what would be your message about healing from body dysmorphia?
Oh man, I'll tell you, the listeners, it comes and goes, right? I am not perfect, nor is anyone here or anyone in the world perfect. So if anyone sits there and tries to tell you I have the perfect solution, I'm sorry, they're lying to you. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it comes and goes, and it's on you to realize, like, hey, I'm either able by myself to work through it and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling at the moment, but it's okay, it'll pass. I am good enough. I do look good. I work hard for how I look, and I should be proud of how I look, no matter what it is, right? Um, or if you realize, no, every time I look in the mirror, I hate myself. Every time I look in the mirror, I hate what I see. No matter how much I don't eat, or how much I do eat, or how much I don't go to the gym, or how much I do go to the gym, I cannot get myself to like what I see. It is now on you to, one, realize, hey, you're not alone. I'm right there with you. Right? Reach out. Reach out to me. Reach out to other content creators that are out there. Reach out to friends, family, anyone you feel comfortable to. Reach out, and either they will have some solutions for you, or they will 100%, if they care about you the way they say they do, will be right there by your side to help you take those steps to find the solution that you need. And it varies from everyone. I have found a very even balance in therapy, gym, and it's helping me, right? Some people, the therapy might not help. So all you need to do is consciously decide, like, hey, I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna take the rope. I'm not gonna take the shovel. I'm gonna climb, and I'm gonna find out what helps me, and I'm gonna realize I'm not alone. I may not have someone right next to me, but I can reach out. Like, that is, like I said, social media has the potential of being this great thing, right? And this is that potential. If you're watching this show, if you're watching this podcast, you are seeing two people right here that you can reach out to for help. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you. We're not going to leave you on your own.
Exactly. Oh, I love that last sentence, because it's so true. And it's the same thing. I homeschooled the 4 boys I was nannying, and there were things that, I don't know. And I'm like, we're going to find it out together. I don't know the answer to that question. Let's learn something new together. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to become more trauma informed, to learn these things, because, I'm not a dude. I could never in a million years walk in your shoes, because I don't know, right? I can't like magically morph into your body and then see through your eyes and like understand what's going on. That's why we need to have these conversations. That's why we need to talk about these things, because you never know what someone else is going through until you ask. And again, on the other side, no one can know what you're going through until you tell them, until you open up. And there are some people that you should not open up to, but use your discretion.
Right.
If that person is not like kind to you, they don't deserve to know you. Okay.
Right. Well, and it's crazy because you talk about, like, you need to tell people, right? So I think there's this like common thing, right? When you're walking and you're passing someone, you're like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good, right? So I tested it one day, like, I was not doing all right. So I was like, hey, how you doing? I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not okay. Like, I'm not okay. And fortunately, I ran into the one person that was like, oh, fuck, dude. Like, well, what's wrong? Like, let's talk, right? I think in society it's just become this natural thing to just be like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine, because you assume no one wants to hear it. When in all reality, there's people like you and me that 100% believe that if you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, how you doing, ma'am? How you doing, sir? Or, how's your day going? And if they were like, honestly, horrible, I 100% believe you'd be like, well, yeah, let's sit down and talk about it. Like, do you need help? Do you need anything? Because I'm the same way. Like, I would be like, all right, well, what's up? Why is it so bad? Why is it so horrible? Why are you at this point that you think it's just the worst day ever, right? Because you could have a whole day, and a moment in time in that day may suck. Doesn't mean your whole day needs to suck.
Exactly. And I was door dashing today just for vibes. I'd never done it before, and I was like, this could be something that would be fun. And so I did it in downtown Dallas, and I'm never doing it in downtown Dallas again because I hate downtown Dallas. There's too many one-way streets. Losing my mind. But anyway, I went up to this huge office building, and I was waiting for like 5 minutes, and the concierge was there, and he was like, how are you doing today? And I looked at him and I was like, I am pissed off that this lady is taking forever to come get her order because I have to go deliver other orders. And he was like, yeah, you don't look like you're doing so good. I'm like, I'm not doing so good. How are you doing? He's like, it's one of those shitty days. It's one of those shitty days that it's just a shitty day, and it's just going to be a shitty day. And I was like, absolute a vibe. You and me are vibing. I wish you'll have a better day. Tomorrow might be a better day for both of us. And he was like, yeah, we see each other. And it doesn't have to be like this huge long conversation. You seeing another person, recognizing with each other that today's a shitty day.
Yeah, exactly.
It can help. It can help a lot. I'm going to remember that guy for forever. He was a cool guy. I'll never see him again. Probably not, because I'm never going back to downtown Dallas. But, it can help. It can really help. Do you have
100%.
any resources or recommendations you'd like to share?
So for my military folks, right? You got Army One Source. All right, Army One Source, you go on there. Each year or quarter, I want to say, you have 12 free sessions, and it's with a civilian therapist, so none of that stuff goes on your record. It's your leadership wouldn't even know that you went to go get help because they don't communicate with each other. But yeah, it's 12 sessions. Any therapist, if you go to one and you don't like it, you can switch. And that includes, like, let's say you're married and you and your wife are having problems. You can choose to do 6 of those sessions together, and 3 of those sessions by yourself, and then 3 of those sessions for your wife or kids or family. Like, you can use that. Another thing that for anyone, because they can look this up on the internet, it's called MRT, Master Residency Training. Right. I'm MRT qualified, which is like, when I first got introduced to it as a soldier, people kind of like don't teach it right sometimes. So it becomes like a bunch of buzzwords, like, oh, look out for icebergs, and look out for, oh, be a bouncing ball, not a glass ball type thing, right? So when they sent me to the course, I was like, oh, I really don't want to go. Like, this is a waste of time. This is just a check in the block, blah, blah, blah. I went, and like, it blew my mind. Like, it just, like, if you fully immerse yourself in that training, like, it's going to change your outlook on everything. You're going to realize that you react certain ways based off your emotions, and then you can correct that reaction once you kind of like sat back and thought about it. So it's called MRT, Master Residency Training. You can look it up. And then other than that, like, back on like the body dysmorphia topic, don't feel like you're stuck at a certain gym, is what all I'm gonna say. If you go into a gym and you're like, man, the vibe here, not it. Like, they're kind of mean, they're pushy, just leave. Like, leave. And I would suggest asking before you join in a gym, ask like, hey, do you have a 1 to 2 day trial that I can kind of check out the gym, figure out the vibe, right? Look for that community. Look for that community. I promise you it's out there. I promise you it's out there. And don't judge a book by its cover. If you see someone like me who's just like straight face, I promise you, if you just come talk to me, you're gonna have a great conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your insight. If you would like to join our Discord and be
Already
like,
joined.
okay, let's go. Let's go. So if you guys want to talk to him like one-on-one, you can obviously DM him. But also he's on our Discord. So gang. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. I'll see you later.
All right, bye.
Today's memes of the week from our Discord are over on our YouTube channel. If you're watching us over on YouTube, here are our memes of the week. Just a quick reminder before we part, this podcast seeks to forge a strong community, so please don't hesitate to join us over on our Discord to share with others and to get podcast updates. In the Discord, we have so many different channels of discussion that range for more than just trauma. We wish to create a place where you can feel heard, so please don't hesitate to join us. You are needed and appreciated, and we'd love to meet you, know you, and support you in whatever way we can. At the end of every week, we spin our wheel of emotions to learn a new feeling and how it correlates to my trauma. Okay, let's zoom in before we do this, because we never quite zoom in. Okay. Ooh. Avoidance. It landed on avoidance. When do I want to avoid things? Okay, so oftentimes when we go through trauma, especially those of us who have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, when you go through trauma, oftentimes you have the feeling of avoidance. Now, avoidance can be related to avoiding a person, places, certain things, certain activities. And for me, my avoidance came in with my mother and the home that I grew up in when I was a child, and the street where my father was hit by a car. And also on that very same street, I lost 3 different dogs because I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but my mom would constantly let my dogs out in the front yard and they would go run out into the street and get killed. And so I don't know how to respond to that. Me too, Siri, but I have a lot of avoidance when it comes to that street that I grew up on. I have a lot of avoidance when it comes to spending any time with my mother because she's not a very nice person. And if you've watched any of our previous episodes over on the podcast, you'll know why. If you want to know more about how my mother has treated me, be sure to go watch our DBT episode with Aaron O'Brien. I'll put the link right here. But avoidance, or trying to avoid a certain situation, people, what have you, stems from your brain wanting to protect itself from experiencing that very same hurt yet again. And from my own experience, I know that I should not spend a lot of time with my mother, especially alone, because I know it's not going to turn out well for me, right? That street, I avoid it because it brings up a lot of very negative memories, and also it's not a very safe street. It really, really isn't. It's not a safe street. So I avoid it. Now, avoidance can be beneficial and it can also be harmful. When it comes to trauma, we have that avoidance to protect ourselves, right? But what if we're avoiding things that are not necessarily harming us? Like, for instance, we avoid social gatherings and social situations because we know if we do go to them, there's a chance that we could be judged. There's a chance that we could be, criticized. There's a chance that we might not fit in with the crowd at that club or wherever. If we avoid social situations, we are not going to get rejected. We're avoiding that risk of being rejected, but we're also avoiding the reward of meeting new people, making new connections, making new friends, and positive experiences. In my episode over PTSD and farm animals with the lovely Crow, they are amazing. We talk about how they started to, instead of avoid these things that they so desperately wanted to avoid, they started having exposure therapy to these things, and ultimately they started to grow from it and learn a lot of new things about themselves. So from my own experience, avoidance can be positive, then it can also be negative. And if you find that you're avoiding a lot of things, I would strongly recommend asking yourself why, journaling about why, what are the risks, what are the rewards, and if the rewards outweigh the risks, then maybe you shouldn't be avoiding that thing. Special thanks goes out to all of our Discord users. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, we have a Patreon. Different tiers can get you a bracelet like these, handmade bracelets made by yours truly, or you can get a sticker over on our Patreon. We also have merch on Bonfire, which is custom apparel designed by yours truly. Any support helps us out a lot, so if you feel compelled to, please like, share, subscribe, and if you're listening to us over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the show. It helps us out a lot and helps send our podcast to other people who may need it. Remember, you are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise again from the ashes and be filled with peace, hope, love, joy, and understanding. I'll see you guys in the next episode in December. Goodbye!